The 2020 Bills defense has been a shell of itself, and while that can be said about a lot of the defenses around the league at the moment, the unit led by Leslie Frazier has appeared to lose its identity. The Bills defense has generally relied on strong interior play to help defend the run, and four-man rushes to affect the QB, using their ability to disguise coverages to confuse opposing QBs long enough for one of their base rushers to get home. But early on in 2020, due to the opt-outs by Star Lotulelei, and injuries to key players like Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, Micah Hyde, and Tre'Davious White, they have struggled to stop the run on early downs, and that has led to some layup conversions on third down on the ground and through the air. But over the last few games, we have seen more and more flashes of the attack-oriented defense the Bills have hung their hat on over the years. I think one major factor is the commitment to a more aggressive style. Frazier has blitzed more than he ever has since arriving in Buffalo. So far this season, the Bills have blitzed 30.5% of the time, the 7th most in the NFL, an increase of 4.7% from 2019. Their pressure rate is 35.5%, the 10th highest in the league, but is only an increase in 0.1% from last year. But it has worked as the Bills have racked up 13 sacks in the last 3 games, compared to 11 in the first 6. Sure, the opponents have something to do with that, but the Bills have utilized 2 defensive fronts that have boosted some of the deficiencies the Bills have experienced the first half of the season. The first front is a true bear front, seen here with Edmonds acting as an outside linebacker. It's a front that Frazier has used primarily on first and third downs to help stunt the run, but also to generate pressure against the pass. So let's jump into the film room to get a look at how this defensive look has helped the Bills' defense. Harrison Phillips is the nose tackle, head up over the center, with Ed Oliver and Mario Addison sitting in the B-gaps in wide 3 techniques. This puts Edmonds and Jared Hughes in 2-point stances and 7 technique alignments. This essentially means that the offensive players will be one-on-one blocking situations due to the stacked box. The Patriots tried converting a 3rd and 2 situation here, but are unable to because Dean Marlowe reads that his assignment, the tight end, is run blocking, so he finds the ball and forces 4th down. Here it is again on 3rd and 1 in the first quarter of the Week 9 matchup against the Seahawks. On the snap, Hughes and Edmonds slant inside to squeeze the inside zone run. Hughes does a tremendous job of ripping through to the sky to maintain his leverage and to clog the hole. Due to the slanting defenders in front of him, Klein is able to come downhill cleanly to wrap up the running back to force 4th down. And you already know what happened on 4th down.
Wilson rolls to his right. Fires into the end zone. Intercepted! Picked up by Jordan Poyer in the end zone!
Bills have utilized this package primarily to contain mobile quarterbacks, especially in the zone read game. QBs such as Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray on deck next week. Here's another front very similar to the bear front, but is essentially an underfront out of nickel. It overloads the front side of the zone run while gaining a defender to help defend the QB in zone read. You will see Oliver move from being head up over the center to a shade technique, and this is important because on the snap, that means the zone footwork of the center, right guard, and right tackle will be to their right, aimed at blocking Oliver, Vernon Butler, and Trent Murphy. The left guard will have to slow play his block to the second level to help the left tackle pick up Darryl Johnson. So on the snap, the sun is able to shine through the backside A-gap on this zone run, and that's the gap Butler stunts into. Wilson has to give it to the back because Edmonds is unblocked and feathering. The running back can't hit the hole up inside or bounce it wide because of Butler and Taron Johnson rushing off the edge. If Wilson were to keep it, the length and athleticism of Edmonds should help minimize the gain. This blitz, meant to stymie the run, is still effective against the pass, and we saw that on several occasions against the Hawks. While the Seahawks did a great job of picking up the interior game between Oliver and Butler, Marlowe was left unblocked, and he bats down the hot route adjustment by Wilson. Towards the end of the first quarter of the Patriots game, the Bills caught Newton off guard with what looked to be an odd front zone blitz, but I believe that it was actually supposed to be a 4-man pressure known as a simulated pressure. I think Jerry Hughes just forgot to drop out underneath. But it doesn't matter, the chaos created by Milano was enough. Notice that Jefferson is a tad wider, playing more of a 4-eye technique. With the center covered and the right guard and right tackle having to kick out wide to pick up Jefferson and Hughes, this means blitzing Milano into the strong A-gap, the running back would have to come across the formation to pick him up. On the snap, Milano has a free run through the A-gap. The running back comes across the formation and does a good job of picking him up, but Milano forces Newton up into the pocket and the Bills rally for the sack. The Bills ran the same play later with Klein, and this time Hughes dropped into his zone. Newton pulled it down and took what he could get. The Bills consistently confuse Wilson and his targets using these two defensive fronts. The front and secondary look behind it didn't give Wilson and company clear reads on the zone spacing. The Bills send an overload blitz from the field, and Wilson and Greg Olsen aren't on the same page. It was this type of scheming up front and disguise on the back end that caused Wilson to struggle for the better part of the game. The Bills are once again in this overload front with the secondary spinning as the ball is snapped, and Wilson and his receivers aren't on the same page once again. Two receivers see the blitz coming from Taron Johnson, and I imagine some sort of sight adjustment or hot route was expected, but neither happened. Wilson pulls it down and he falls into the arms of the contained player Tremaine Edmonds. These two defensive fronts created havoc over the last couple weeks because it puts several defenders up near the line of scrimmage and the offensive line doesn't know who is rushing or who is dropping. Very much like the prior 2 years when the Bills had a guy like Lorenzo Alexander to disguise who the 4th, 5th, or 6th rusher would be. These fronts challenge the offensive line and QB to decipher that pre- and post-snap while reading how the coverage is spinning. That is a lot to process for any QB. Over the last couple weeks, I believe that the Bills' defensive identity has been uncovered. It includes a couple fronts that were rarely used and a slight increase in blitzing. As the season progresses and guys at the second and third levels get healthier, this mindset will be solidified. It'll be hard for some fans to stomach because this sort of aggressiveness will come with some big plays by Bills' opponents. But if they can continue to disguise who is rushing via these fronts and coverage on the back end, they should still be able to regain some of their old defensive form. All while creating big plays such as pressures, sacks, and turnovers, much like they created over the last couple weeks. This may be the formula on defense that is a perfect complement to their high-flying offense, and the recipe they need to make a deep playoff run.